Aloha, everyone. This is Tony with the Transformation Space. Today, I'd like to spend a little time talking about reflection. Some huge part of transformation or making change of any sort. It's absolutely necessary to know where we've been, to compare that to where we are, and make a decision on what we want to do to either keep things the same or change them. A process that I love to use is the debriefing process. When I encounter someone for the first time or have an experience or a situation that I need to understand, I take time and I try to understand, what about that worked? What about that didn't work? What do I need to change? And what do I need to keep the same? And it really allows me to be intentional with my life and how I go about things. The reflection process can happen in varying amount of ways. It's important to pick a time to reflect on. So it could be a moment, could be a day, could be a week, month, 6 months, a year. I choose to do reflection points within each one of those because I think that it's important to understand what is happening now, what just happened, what happened in the small picture of our life, what's happening in the big picture of our life, and then what's happening in the whole picture of our life, so that I have continuity and harmony with what I'm doing. It helps me make decisions that are consistent with my belief system and myself as a person. And in order to do that, I have to take time to understand who I am. And I've done a blog post about the personal narrative, self-narrative, and it's really, I spend a lot of time with that now, really making sure I understand who I am, because in order to reflect and utilize your reflection, you have to have something to compare it with, right? And so we call this like baseline of our life is really where we're at right now, who we are. And so I constantly compare what I've done to what I'm doing and to make sure that those things are lining up. One of the most important ways to make sure those things are lining up is to understand what's going on up here and then understand what's going on up here, and then to make sure that they have continuity and that they are on the same page. Because when they're not on the same page, we are trying to inform ourselves that something isn't right, or we need more information, or inquire further into this. And if we don't, it's very easy to come up with a story about why things are the way they are. So I'm going to try to give you an example of this. I'm not a huge sports person, right? But I did go play kickball when I first moved to Hawaii. And it was an amazing experience, right? And I reflected on that on a regular basis. So, Tony, are you enjoying what you're doing? How does it feel when you go to that kickball field? How does it feel to be around the people that you're around? Is your body in a good place? What are you sensing here? It's so important to understand what we're sensing within our body as far as comfort or discomfort. And you can really utilize just the two of those things to help understand if something's okay or not, if it's comfortable or not comfortable. Sometimes people will call it maybe feelings of anxiety or butterflies in your stomach, and so I thought about that every time that I went and played kickball, and then after a season I thought about it too, and I thought, I felt good. I felt great. It felt really fun being around people that I was around. I had a little bit of nerves, walking into the big thing. I'm not someone who is necessarily great with big crowds that are social without kind of boundaried situations. So I love professional settings. I love large group settings. I'm great with speaking on stage. I'm wonderful with situations that I know how they are being presented and how to interact. And sometimes in social interactions, it's unpredictable just because people are unpredictable. So I understand that I have a little bit of nerves around that, and I accepted that because I wanted to be part of the sport situation that was happening. And then I thought to myself, after I felt it first, I thought, Tony, is this a smart thing for you to be doing? Is this good for your body? Is this something that's a healthy thing to be doing? You know, I don't drink, and so there's a lot of social engagements that are available through the Hawaii Gay sports leagues that involve socializing, that involve drinking, and it's a great community thing for so many people. But for me, it's hard sometimes to get too involved in that because I don't drink. And if you don't drink, or if you've been around people that are drinking and you're not drinking, there is a time where the environment starts to shift a little bit, right? Boundaries lessen, things are said and done oftentimes at a certain point that probably wouldn't be done had people not been drinking. And it's not good or bad, it's just that's how alcohol works, right? It loosens us up. It's what we call a social lubricant, so we can say and do things that we want to do, but we wouldn't do otherwise. And that exposes us to aspects about ourselves that maybe we wouldn't otherwise be comfortable with. And so when I'm not drinking around that, I'm aware that this is going on. And if you've ever experienced that awareness, it can be a little bit challenging, right? I'm a firm believer in my personal boundaries and the way that I present them, and as people attempt to pass through them, it's challenging for me. So I usually don't get involved myself. Long story short, that part of the socializing aspect was something that I had to think, is this a smart thing to be doing? And the reality is I don't have to do any of that stuff. No one was expecting me to. So it didn't really matter. So I was able to assess the situation. It's good for my body. It's healthy social interaction. It's a great routine to be into. So it was a smart thing for me to be doing, and it felt good. And I'm really glad that I took the opportunity to do that. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a time when maybe these things don't come together, right? I have been in romantic relationships before that I was so drawn to, so attracted to, right? And nothing about that person aligned with my life. They didn't have the same belief systems. They didn't take care of themselves the same way. They weren't interested in the same things. And I did not care because I wanted to be with that person. Okay, well, this and this were in conflict, and I didn't assess what was in that conflict. And, eventually that relationship didn't work out, right? But I overrode what was going on up here because I just wanted to go with the feeling. And we do that all the time. It's easy to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm better at overriding my feelings and going with my thoughts. For instance, I have spent some time in the business world, long time in the business world actually, and I made some really smart decisions that did not feel good. And I did that for a long time, and I suffered big time for that. Not necessarily externally or with other people. I had a nice house, I had a great partner, I had all the things, I got to do all the stuff, and inside, I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be around. It was so uncomfortable for me. I was nervous showing up all the time. I was a ball of anxiety inside. No one would have known this because I wasn't going to let anybody see that. And so in reflection, I just kind of bypassed this stuff. But when there's a disconnection between this and this, we need to stop for a moment and inquire, what's happening here? Why isn't this connecting? And that happens in reflection. So take that time to really think about this. Is it safe? Is it smart? Does it feel good? Is it healthy? Am I comfortable? Do I want to spend more time? Am I warm inside? And do I feel good? And you can do this, and this is how you can make change. And it's also a way to make some really strong transformation with yourself, because if you are living intentionally and you're honoring yourself, you're being good to the people around you, you're taking others into consideration, you're using judgment as a sense of alignment, and you can move forward with intention. I moved to a completely different place and completely changed my life, and I was able to do that because I was able to reflect back on what I had done, what didn't work for me. And as I encountered situations that were similar, or I encountered people that were similar to relationships that I had that didn't work for me, I was able to say, hey, this looks familiar to something I had done that wasn't good for me before. What do I need to learn about this new situation to make sure it's okay? And when I could figure out that it was or wasn't, I could make a conscious decision about what I wanted to do with that. There's people that I've met that I have continued and loved to engage with. There's people that I've met once and have decided, it's probably a great person, but it's not the right person for me. I think we all have had moments in our lives where we've judged someone. And I think the important thing to remember about judgment is that it teaches us and tells us whether we are aligning with the person or situation that we are confronted with. Everybody deserves to be able to do what they need to do for themselves. But if we're judging that, it means that it's not for us. So listen. And then decide, do I want to keep spending time around that or not? And you can only do that if you reflect. So I encourage you to take some time. Just doesn't have to be a lot, and I love it in meditation. Not everybody loves meditating. Some people are like, I can't keep my mind quiet. I can't find a place to sit still. And you don't have to try to keep your mind quiet. Just allow in what comes and then sort through that, process it, think about it, feel it. Is it on the same page? What questions do I have? And then decide what you need to do about it. Do I need to change it? Do I need to keep it the same way? Should I keep doing it? Should I stop doing it? And if you have questions, especially if it has to do with another person or situation, go ask the questions. If we don't ask questions, we come up with a story about what's going on. And everybody has the right to know and have clarification on what's happening. If someone doesn't like that you're asking questions, that's not your problem. It's their problem. And let them deal with it however they need to deal with it. But you deserve to know what you need to know. So I hope this helps. Reflection is so important to make change, to get in touch with ourselves, to live with intention, to have continuity and harmony in our life. Until next time.